I am from rural Jamaica. Many of you already know that I'm from St. Elizabeth, but for those of you who didn't know, now you know. So, George, listeners, I'm a proud country girl.
Of course.
Through and through.
That's right.
I've never claimed the city.
That's right.
I've always said St. Elizabeth, one St. Elizabeth, and that will never change.
Where you use the city.
Yes, you're using the city. And I attended Hampton School and was transported on an old bus. Let me emphasize that. On an old bus for most of my 7 years, and in Kava to be specific. And for those of you who are on our YouTube channel, again, Nationwide 90 FM Live 2, I was able to find a picture on the internet of that bus. And if you're viewing now, you'll see that you had a number of my sisters sitting there on the back seat.
6 in the back?
Yes. My 7 years was between 2005 and 2012. The bus, full to capacity with us girls and sometimes some boys from my brother's school, Monroe College, would climb Top Hill every morning and make the journey to Hampton in Malvern. That was the southern belt. On the northern belt, similar buses would make its way up Ginger Ground. We all had bus passes and would board in the morning and be transported to school. Once we're dropped off on campus, the buses are parked on campus for the entire day. At the end of the day, each bus comes up, parks in the quadrangle, we board or sign buses, and then the journey begins for home or a town center closest to home. Mm-hmm. For 7 years, this was my routine every day for every school term without fail on the same Nkava bus. And on the occasions, George and listeners, when my assigned bus had challenges, a similar Nkava or a Tata bus or something similar in make to the yellow bus, school buses that were brought in recently, would be put into service to fill that gap. These buses, though old, they were safe, they were reliable, and they were rigorously maintained. Because before I came along to Hampton, these were the same buses that the school used, had for years, carrying my sisters who were boarding them daily and being greeted by the same driver who was hired after a proper vetting process. My driver we called Uncle P. He died recently. Mm-hmm. May his soul rest in peace. I've begun by sharing my personal experience because with a program I'm talking about here that worked and had several elements that the new rural school bus program is intended to mirror. I also thought it necessary to point out that my bus was old because much is being made about that. The point to my mind is good for naught, George and listeners, because like me, so many of you have been able to point to instances where used vehicles are still being used. Businessmen, George, who bought second-hand vans in good condition for their ventures, motorists with used cars going along fine. What is primary to this program is what has always been primary for all other motorists out there. Safety standards being met, fitness being done in a timely manner, proper maintenance and servicing. That has been factored here because the maintenance of these buses under the new rural school bus program will fall under the umbrella of the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC. It's necessary for me to emphasize as well that the pilot in Portland over the last couple of weeks, using a couple of the buses, that is demonstrating that the program can work and provide a safe avenue for our children in rural Jamaica. The opposition senator, Peter Bunting, his reckless utterance that the buses are going to kill off the school children, to my mind, is nothing more than fear-mongering and alarmist. I believe it's a destructive kind of politics built out of expediency. Because do you really care about country schoolers? Do you? If you did, you would realize that your posture stands to tear down instead of build up a good thing. And rightfully, this posture has angered many. Many George listeners, my viewers, who've experienced the realities of rural transportation, the lap up, being told to sit in a big man lap, having to travel in the trunk of an AD wagon or AR wagon, as we're hearing now, being left stranded after the taximan said no schoolers. The politicians who come to us rebuking this anticipated program, do you know what that feels like? Do you have any proximity to an issue like this? My peers from other schools have experienced the indignity of traveling in a trunk. But left with no choice, you just have to do what you have to do. Now, I find it hard to believe that the opposition would come to the nation proposing a plan that doesn't advance safety, doesn't advance reliability, or eliminate or minimize chaos. The PNP's plan is to pay taxi drivers to carry the children. They're saying the plan is to begin with 20,000. I want to play the clip again of the opposition leader, the PNP president. Hear it again, him in his own words talking about this alternative.
And I see your MP coming with his whole bus plan. These whole buses that he wants to say is going to provide a solution, a transport solution. It's going to be pure problem, I tell you that. Our solution is to empower the taxi drivers and the bus drivers of Jamaica with a subsidy that we will pay them so they can carry the picnic them and you don't have to find all that money. And we're starting with 20,000 families, and as the economy improves, we're going to grow it till we're providing a proper subsidy across the nation to all who need it. And the transport sector, the private operators, the little man, them who have them Pro Box and them have them AR wagon, and they will be the beneficiaries of the money that is going to run for that program.
So this is a system that won't have a state operated or won't have state operated units. How will you ensure accountability? How will you ensure monitoring? How will you ensure safety? How will you ensure timely pickups? How do you decide which 20,000 children benefit? How many, to quote the opposition leader, Probox and AR wagon drivers does this plan need? How will you measure that taxpayers' money that you're going to run is being spent for the intended purpose? How? This alternative, without more, has CHAOS, chaos, written all over it. And Georgian listeners, viewers, I can already see, because this is Jamaica, the little Probox man being late or only running 2 trips, peak hour in the morning, gone back to carry the adults. Listen. The US has a state-led school bus program. Canada has a state-led school bus program. Let's take it to the region again. Grenada has rolled out a state-led school bus program. St. Kitts and Nevis has a state-led school bus program. Antigua and Barbuda has a state-led school bus program. Here comes the opposition with a subsidy-backed, taxi-led school transportation plan. What a condition. That's what's on my mind.